What is up, everybody? Clint Collins here with my buddy Seth Nell. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well, doing well. How we doing, folks out there in the world?
Oh, man. So I was looking at the calendar, and as we talked about last week, we're coming in on college football season.
Best time of the year.
It really is, right? Like, aren't you a little bit excited?
Absolutely.
As I was researching this podcast, Seth and I throughout the entire season are going to have to call each other out on being homers. Because, as you guys know, Ohio State, Baylor, we tend to lean towards them at all times. And it's funny because our first preview here is about the SEC. And one of the gripes that both the Big Ten and the Big 12 get are strength of schedule and how the out-of-conference strength of scheduling is weak and that both conferences shouldn't be taken seriously because of it. But Seth, as I was doing some digging on the SEC, I kind of feel like maybe the finger should be pointed in that direction as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad. I mean, you get arguments on a couple sides. I mean, you talk to SEC people and their thought process is, when you're in the SEC West, for example, and you got to play Ole Miss and A&M and Alabama and LSU and Arkansas and back to back, that you should get to, basically, schedule Wheelchair University if you want to. But I mean, it's bad. I mean, if you look at some of the teams that they play, I mean, I'm wondering, do they even have football teams? Are they playing junior college teams?
Can I ask
no
you
offense,
how the Citadel has a football program and UAB doesn't?
There's something wrong with that.
How does that not work?
It doesn't make sense.
I kind of feel like that, and something for you guys we're going to do here, we're going to walk you through, in all of our Power 5 conference previews, we're going to walk you through a weekly schedule, talking about highlighting the games to catch that week. And in doing this, I was looking at the SEC. I think part of the reason that their schedule gets overlooked, their out-of-conference schedule is really never brought up, is because at the beginning of the season, there's a marquee game almost every single week, maybe more than one.
What they do now, the SEC, nobody claims them to be not smart. Okay, they schedule properly. Where I'll use Ohio State as an example. We play Toledo, Western Michigan, UNLV, Hawaii, all these schools, and we front load and we play those 4 schools first week of the year, and then we go into the schedule and it's the beating of our schedule. The SEC does the exact opposite. Yeah. They come out of the gate and they're playing, Alabama's playing, A&M and, South Carolina's playing Georgia and so on and so forth. And they're just
brilliant.
And it's brilliant how they do it because then they hide that game against the Citadel. They hide that game against Jacksonville State or whoever it is that they're playing.
It's not even just hiding it, Seth, though, but they're at full strength when they face those programs. There are no injuries. It's really early in the season. Now, at the same time, they haven't gelled all the way yet, potentially.
Yeah, but I even think the better part for them is if you do get through that first rough patch, they get 2 or 3 weeks where their starters are playing a quarter.
Yeah.
Or playing a half, and you're getting that middle of the season rest where, like in the NFL, it's the bye week. In SEC world, it's, it's the Citadel. That's the week. Now, here's the one thing, though. I got something to throw out at you about that before we go into the game-by-game here. I think it hurts them, though. Because when Baylor's playing Oklahoma or TCU or Ohio State and Michigan are playing, or Michigan State and Wisconsin are playing, in that week 10, 11, 12 of the season, and the voters' eyes are on them, and we're coming into the playoff, I think that hurts SEC teams because people forget about week 1. Because I can remember last year A&M beat South Carolina by about 50 points in week 1.
That's when Kenny Trill was a Heisman candidate.
And then they just went down from there. But my point is that they forget about that.
We need to get to the SEC on this, and I'm not going to go into this, but something for all you guys to check out. And Seth, for you, have you seen Ohio State and Baylor's November schedules?
Yeah, it's not. We'll get in more to that. I have seen it. I'm actually, I'm a little worried about November.
I am too. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, so let's get started. Week 1. It's pretty exciting. First week of the year. Tennessee and OU. We have that. One of our first marquee out-of-conference matchups. You get to see a little bit of Big 12 action. Probably 3rd best team in the Big 12. Play potentially the 4th or 5th best team in the SEC. But a potential candidate to win the SEC East. And, you got that. You've got Wisconsin, Alabama here in Arlington.
Now, that game, Wisconsin's going to be down this year. Everybody has to understand
Melvin
this.
Gordon's back, though.
Melvin Gordon's playing for the San Diego
That's
Chargers.
right. He's not back.
I mean, yeah, he's back. Right.
He's back on the sideline with the check on.
No, I agree. He's back, signing checks and getting paid on Sunday.
Was he a senior last year?
Yeah.
See, I thought he was a redshirt junior. That is my fault completely.
He's gone. So, I mean, Wisconsin's going to take a step back here. So, I don't think that game's going to... It's going to come out blown up, hyped as a marquee matchup. I think that's a 20-point win for Alabama.
What do you think about Louisville and Auburn that opening week?
Now, see, I like that game a lot. Now, that game could easily be 65-60.
Yeah.
I love Auburn this year.
I do too.
The demographic of their team is just, it's phenomenal. They're stacked at a lot of different positions, and I believe that the difference in the SEC this year is going to be Will Muschamp.
Man, you want to talk about maybe... Well, we spend so much time on the NBA. I always think of late season, off season acquisitions. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about maybe the best one, most important one in college football this year was Will Muschamp.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, thing at Florida, you can say injuries, you can say this, you can say that. The rise of Florida State hurting recruiting when he was there. I don't know. You can break that down. The one thing I do know is that guy knows how to coach defense.
Here's my theory on that. Now you know that Muschamp played at Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Georgia and Florida, it's one of the biggest rivalries in college football.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for Will Muschamp to join whatever version of the Skulls is on Georgia's campus, he had to destroy Florida from the inside out. I think that's what happened.
There's conspiracy theories around and that kind of thing.
Whenever we start our show on conspiracy theories.
Yes, we're going to have an episode of conspiracy theories because... I have a couple.
That would be fun, actually.
Yes, that would be fun. A good segment choice. But
we can do that.
Let's touch base again real quick. Just talk about this first week.
You got those. There's one more big game though, and then let's break them down. Arizona State and Texas A&M play also that weekend.
You know something? I like Arizona State a lot.
See, I think the Pac honestly may be the best head-to-toe conference. Because the thick of it, the top of it, actually the top 7 teams.
Pretty good. I mean, we'll get into that when we get to the Pac-12. Let's stay off that. I like Arizona State. I mean, I really like A&M. I mean, we'll get to the sleeper picks and the team that you think is going to sleep. I like A&M. A&M has as much talent as anybody else. Can they play some defense for once? Is John Chavis going to do something for them? Because everybody talks about Will Muschamp, but let's forget that LSU plays some defense too, and they just stole their defensive coordinator.
That's true.
Can he do something? Because they got talent on defense, but can they bring it together? And on offense, at the skill positions and offensive line, I mean, A&M's as good as anybody.
They are. And Arizona State, though, they can move the ball. And A&M's defense is still very, very long way away.
Arizona State can play. I mean, that right there is going to be...
high-scoring game.
That might be the best Week 1 game, period, in all of college football. It just quality of two teams and just the dynamic styles in which they play. I'm excited, too.
I am, too. Moving on to Week 2, we have a marquee West matchup. And we also have an out-of-conference matchup that I'm excited about. We have LSU and Mississippi State.
LSU wins that game by 20 points.
You really think Mississippi State... who did they lose? Like, the Dak Prescott's back?
They had that, again, they had that whole group of fifth-year senior guys. They all came in together. They all redshirted. And, again, Dak Prescott, big heart. Plays hard. Plays good. I'm not a Dak Prescott fan. I think there's deficiencies in his game.
Is he Tim Tebow 2.0? Or is he Tim Tebow 0.5?
He's not even on Tim Tebow's radar. Tim Tebow... Look, knock Tim Tebow. We can go into that conversation another time, but I'm just going to say this right now. 5 best players in college football history. Period. Tim Tebow. One of them. His numbers are unheard of.
They are. His sophomore season specifically.
Right. I mean, look, just his whole body of work is ridiculous.
We got... The out-of-conference game that I think will be interesting is we've got OU and Tennessee that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what... and I accidentally mentioned that first week, but second week. OU and Tennessee. Now, I think that there's a chance that Stoops turns it around this year and surprises a lot of people.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that in the Big 12, of course. I mean, I think, again, I don't ever... Bob Stoops is
King of 10 wins.
He's King 10 wins. Him and Mark Rick fight every year for King of 10 wins.
I'm excited. I'm excited because Week 3 is coming up and we finally get to talk about your boy Mark Rick.
So they're King of 10 wins. Here's the deal. I like Tennessee. I think it's well known nationally that they have a very up and coming program. They've recruited very well.
But they're all sophomores, right?
I like Butch Jones. They're all redshirt freshmen, sophomores, redshirt juniors, or like what would be redshirt sophomores. They're all in that group. I think they're a year away from that top echelon. I think that the thing for them is, can you win in a hostile environment? Can you win a big game? Because what you're going to see from Tennessee this year, they're going to go 9-3, 8-4. They're going to beat some teams that you don't think they're going to win a big game, but that consistency level, they're going to turn around and lose some games. A young team against a Stoops team, I like Stoops in that game.
I really think, though, that Vols fans out there probably have a lot to look forward to coming up. I think that they're maybe 1 year away.
I make no arguments there. They're going to be a beast. I mean, the old Tennessee teams that you saw in the late 90s, early 2000s, they're coming back. Butch Jones is legit.
So, you said LSU takes Mississippi State by 20. Now, the next weekend, they host Auburn at home.
Oh, Auburn might beat them by 20.
See, that's kind of the thing, is I think that the SEC West, and as we get into this, I mean, it's a question that I posed to you. It's almost been unquestioned since, I would say that the turning point to when the SEC really became, the SEC West specifically, really became the focal point of college football was the year that Bama beat Texas for the national title. The year that Colt McCoy got injured. Mm-hmm. Because that year, and the year prior, and the year before that, Texas, and OU, and Oklahoma State were all in the top 12, all in the top 15. That entire stretch right there. You've got Michael Crabtree back there and all that other stuff. But that win right there, that's what really pushed, in my opinion, the SEC to the front line. And since then, you've seen like these amazing runs. The team that really hasn't been able to seem to sustain it, though, is LSU.
I mean, look, here's the deal. LSU, you can walk on their campus, and there's 40 guys on their roster who are NFL guys. They look like NFL guys. They're going to be NFL guys. They got names I can't pronounce, but they're all going to be in the NFL. The issue that they have is and you see it, number 1A in today's college football, you have to have some sort of dynamic situation to your offense. You've even seen Alabama. Saban's learned that. When he brought Kiffin in, you watch Alabama last year, Alabama wasn't lining up in two tight sets and running it straight. Now they run a pro-style offense, but they were putting the ball in the air. Who can LSU pass the ball? We know Leonard Fournette can run. We know they got offensive linemen that are good. We know they got speed on defense. Do they have anybody who can complete a pass?
I don't know. They've got three people who have not had. They've got three people that have had under 100 snaps in their career, all vying for the quarterback position right now.
Well, I mean, even 100 snaps. I mean, Armstrong. Look, here's the deal. Until they figure that out, until Les Miles until they have the ability to recruit high-level talent at quarterback to that school, they will always be a roller coaster. 1 year, they're going to catch lightning in a bottle, and they're going to make runs and win titles like they've done in the past, but they're never going to have that Bama consistency. They have that Bama talent. They have that, that ability of a talent level on their campus all the time. They're just not having consistent quarterback.
Do you think that has a lot to do with the Mad Hatter? Do you think he's overrated as a coach?
I don't know. I have a problem with. I have a love affair with Les Miles, but I don't think it's for football purposes, like his coaching purposes. I just love the guy in general. He is hilarious.
He is.
He's a walking soundbite. So I always want him to be in the prime of college football. So he's got titles, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
He is going to win my Mike Leach Award for my favorite coach of that conference. We'll get into Mike Leach and his craziness when we get to the pack. But moving from there, we have Ole Miss at Bama, revenge game. Now here's something that's interesting. Did a little research. I'll know I read too much. In the last 10 years, Saban is 6-1 in revenge games.
I hear you. I'm with you. And you know me, I'm a stats guy. I live and die with the numbers. Here's my thing, though. I'm not gonna make myself look like an idiot here in a little bit later. Ole Miss wins the game.
We can get into that when we talk more about Ole Miss. I also now here's what's interesting, and I love this because I have to list this as a marquee game, and it kills me to. A stat that I meant to look up, I'm so mad I didn't. Was I really wanted to look at Steve Spurrier's career over the last couple years.
Oh wow!
We've got South Carolina at Georgia, which I think that Georgia may win by 3 or 4 scores. I think that South Carolina is once again due for massive, massive disappointment. I just don't know what's going on out
Look
there.
again, and it's the same thing. It's South Carolina last year. They will find a way to beat somebody they shouldn't beat, but they will also find a way, like in a lot of teams, and the teams, Spurrier's teams consistently will beat teams that they shouldn't beat because he is a good football coach and he does know how to scheme and game plan, and he'll put something together that nobody's waiting for, and he'll get his boys playing, and they'll play good. But they're going to turn around and lose to, I don't know, Sisters of the Blind Tech the next week. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, they don't, no consistency. I mean, I don't even know what to do with it. I don't touch South Carolina games because it's like, it's flip a quarter every time you see it.
I think that at this point in the season, you could see, at the end of week 5, I think that you could see Georgia 4-0 heading into week 6 and be 5-0. Basically, I'm saying after Georgia plays Alabama, I think they could beat Alabama. I think that they could go into Bryant-Denny, pull out an upset, and then lose the next 5 games, which I'm going to get into. But, I really like Georgia.
Hold on, are you putting that on paper? Is that your bold prediction of the SEC?
It's not my bold. I don't even really want to consider it bold, I don't think. I think that Georgia will be our week 5 national champ.
Look, Mark Richt is going to go down in history as the most underachieving coach in the history of the world. I have no love for Mark Richt, okay? Georgia, on a yearly basis, has more talent than you can possibly imagine. They have droves of guys going into the NFL on a yearly basis. And every year, they're never going to be 8-5. They're never going to be 9-4. They're going to go 9-3, 10-2, at the best every year, because Mark Richt will lose a game or 2 or 3 for them.
Okay, heading into week 4. This is what I feel will be kind of a pillow fight weekend that will be overvalued for the SEC.
Okay.
I am not saying, believe me, I think that Auburn is going to be a great football team this year.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that Missouri, I think that we're going to end up naming the Eastern Championship Trophy the Missouri Tiger Eastern Championship Trophy of the SEC.
They've never lost it.
They never have, ever. By the way, that's an amazing stat. Probably the only school in all of college football that's never lost their division.
I hear you.
But we've got, that week 4, we've got Aggie and Arkansas here in Dallas, which is always an exciting game. It's always a great game. But I don't feel like either one of those teams will be sniffing the top 20 by the end of the season.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think it depends. I mean, I think they both have the ability to be top 20 teams. I think there's a lot of moving parts there. I mean, I think they're going to hover that top 20 area, somewhere in that neighborhood. I think they're both top 25 teams for sure. I don't know. It'll be a good game. It'll be an unconsequential game.
Exactly. And just like we have Mississippi State at Auburn, which I think will be...
Auburn wins that game by... Look,
that fluke win...
I'm calling the spread now. 20.5 is going to be the Vegas spread on that game.
And then... I don't disagree with that at all. I got to be honest with you. And then to finish it out... we have Tennessee and Florida. I think Tennessee probably wins a lot because and this is the first time we've really mentioned the Gators. Can Florida score more than 13 points a game this year?
No. Florida, well, it depends. I mean, against an FBS school, sure.
Yeah. And they've got a couple of those on the schedule.
right. Look, I think Florida's going into that Miami time. So good, so dominant for so long. And then they're just doing this. And I don't even think they've hit I think they've hit their crater. And I think you're going to see them have some flirts of, oh my gosh, Florida's back, and then they're gone. Just like Miami's been. You've seen Miami crater, and then you've seen Al Golden. They're 6-1, and then they lose 4 games in a row.
Yep.
You know, and that's just what's going to happen. I think Florida's got a long way to get themselves back.
I think they have a really long way. I think that Muschamp did a lot of damage. And what's funny is I think that Muschamp will do, for every bit of damage he caused, you can multiply that times 2 and put that on the Auburn defense on how much of a difference I think he'll make. Mm-hmm. Walking into week 5, we have Bama and Georgia, Arkansas at Tennessee, and Mississippi State and A&M, which I think Bama...
I don't like Mississippi State. Any game that has Mississippi State in it, just throw it out. Here's my prediction for you.
All right.
Mississippi State will not win a game in the SEC West this year.
It's really big because I think that...
They will not win a game in the SEC West this year.
Interesting. So A&M beats them, you think?
A&M beats them.
LSU.
Arkansas beats them. LSU beats them. And Alabama
else.
beats them. Name one. Ole Miss. They do not win a game in that. As good a season they had last year, they're not going to win a game in this.
Okay, well, we can move on without that then. Week 6, we have LSU and South Carolina. I mean, like, what's funny is I'm going through these games and I'm like laughing because I know that ESPN, these will be the focal points of these weeks. Like, there's game days that are coming.
Two unconsequential teams.
We've got Bama at home versus Arkansas. Can Arkansas? Last year they gave Alabama all they could.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be the king of Arkansas is going to run it 57 times, and Alabama's going to run it 45 times. And the difference in the game is Alabama's going to be able to complete 10 passes, and Arkansas is going to complete 6. Right. There's the difference in that game.
I looked through the schedule so hard trying to find the most important Missouri game on the schedule, and at week 6, the closest thing we have to a important game is having Florida at home. Like, that's their first quote challenge.
I hear you.
Okay, so moving on. We have Alabama at A&M in week 7.
Alabama's going to beat A&M by 2 touchdowns.
I get into week 8. We've got Ole Miss at Auburn. Can we finally agree that this is a great game?
Now, this is a great game. Here's where I'm on the fence. This is my bold prediction number 2.
All right.
Those 2 teams will be undefeated going into that game.
I can see that.
I love Ole Miss. Ole Miss top-end talent, if without injury, Ole Miss has top-end talent. Depth, 0.
Yeah.
Top-end talent, better than anybody else in the SEC. And I think Chad Kelly's out to prove something.
You may be right.
I love him. And for me, I'm on record. We're going to talk about this. I'm picking Auburn to win the whole SEC, so I'm going to pick Auburn in the game, but I think that game, everybody thinks that the Iron Bowl is the deciding game. I think it's that game right there.
What's interesting though is and I'm sure you've noticed this, is I'm walking through the weeks, Ole Miss doesn't really have that difficult of a schedule. Getting undefeated there, having that game, but then they've got Arkansas at home. They have they've got a FCS school week 10. They have LSU at home in week 11, and then they go to the Egg Bowl, which we're not convinced of anyway. They could seriously only lose one game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think that game dictates the SEC West, which then also dictates the SEC champion.
You're probably right.
Except for, we could keep going through the schedule. We'll be all night going through this schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you on that. But let's get into some interesting stuff.
Okay, let's.
I got a question for you real quick. You ready?
Yeah.
You really ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Who wins the SEC East?
I think that it's either Tennessee or Missouri.
Really?
I just don't think Missouri can lose the SEC East until the champ is defeated.
I love Missouri. Look, okay. Shout out to Matty Mock. Known the kid for a long time. Know his dad. My dad and him, good friends. My dad and his dad, very good friends. A long time. Known their family for a long time. Matty, look, he'll throw for 100 yards in a game and they'll win.
Yeah.
Tell me how it happens.
Because as we've talked about on roundtable discussions, Missouri just grows defensive players.
They do. They grow. Like, every year it's like SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Some dude I never heard of from Missouri.
Exactly.
Next year, SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Some dude I never heard of from Missouri.
And it's always like first ups. It's like, we had our first openly gay football player from Missouri that won the
Right.
SEC Player of the Year.
Yeah.
And so it's not just like a random person. It's this random person that somehow becomes like a socially relevant person after his playing days.
Right. And you never heard of him ever. You know what I
No.
mean? Like, just, I don't know. I don't know if Pinkel's that good of a coach, or they got luck on their side. I don't know if they sold their. I have no idea. I can't figure it out. But
Faustian?
I don't bet until somebody shows me they can beat Missouri. I'm on Missouri.
I agree with you. I think that Tennessee, like you said, it's probably a year away. Now, I understand that a lot of Volunteers fans are going to be really, really excited. There's a chance they might all be like jumping off of bridges after about week 6 or week 7 when their season starts to come crashing down on itself.
Right.
I think that Florida and I think that Vanderbilt battle to see who the worst team in the league is.
I'm with you. I mean, I think again, I'm a Stoops guy. I like the Stoops family. I think Mark Stoops is doing some good things at Kentucky. I think you saw that last year. You saw some evolution. Now, they lost a couple guys in the NFL, but he's also recruited very well. A couple top 10 classes the last couple years. I think Kentucky's coming up. Do I ever think Kentucky will be that team? They'll be the Northwestern of the Big Ten. One year they'll go 11-1 and win the SEC. Just like Northwestern one year will go to the Rose Bowl and what I mean, pull something off.
Can we start counting on them as a 6, 7, 8 win team?
I think so. I think they're a consistent 8-win team.
I think, and you saw their uniforms last year, right? They
Yeah.
finally upgraded.
Yeah.
I think they're the Oklahoma State of the SEC moving forward.
Could be. I don't think that. I think there's some similes there. I think that there's a path.
My bold prediction right now is I think that this is the year Herschel Records rushing record falls at Georgia. I think Nick Chubb gets real close to 2,000.
I think that
They don't have a lot of options. Like, they really don't. As long as he stays healthy, he's all they got.
Well, first of all, they got 5 running backs. I mean, look, Georgia has a stable. You remember Gershel?
Yeah.
They still got Keith Marshall. He's back from injury. They got Chubb. They got Sony Michel. They're loaded at running back. They got so many running backs. Most team of the 100 whatever teams there are in FBS, FCS, probably 25 of them would pass, but every one of them would one of those guys would start for their team. It's just, I mean, I think that they're loaded at the running back spot. So I think that the thing is that I don't think Chubb's going to effectively get enough carries to get there. And look, man, he was great last year. All right, but let's remember one thing. Todd Gurley doesn't get hurt. He doesn't ever see the field.
I get it, but okay, let's just listen to this though.
He's a tinker toy.
6 games. Six games he started. He ran for 1,500 yards and 17 touchdowns last year.
I'm with you. I'm not. Look, they're gonna look. I'm not arguing.
They
that
also
he's
play
not good.
in out of conference. Their out of conference schedule. Their out of conference schedule is also Louisiana Monroe, Georgia Southern. Mm-hmm. Those are 2 different schools, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a blip on the schedule. Like, you're looking at that. They were playing teams that he can rush for 200 yards in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Their first half of.
I mean, I'm with you. Look, I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility, but I'm going to go with history, and I don't think he's going to do it. That's just me. Here's mine for you. You ready? SEC East prediction. You ready?
Mm.
The Bowling Green State University Fighting Falcons will go into Tennessee and beat them in week 1.
Wow.
Shout out to my dad and mom, both graduated from Bowling Green. We're coming out, and they are going to beat Tennessee. First of all, Bowling Green's going to win the MAC. Tennessee is very young with a lot of hype. That's a recipe for disaster for a young team. Bowling Green's going to go in there and beat them.
Huh.
I'm calling it now. And when they do, I just want a shout out on the show the next week.
I'll understand. If you look at Auburn's, I gotta look up. Okay, out of conference schedules here. Like Auburn, this year they played Louisville game 1. We talked about that, but they also have Jacksonville State, San Jose State, and Idaho. I brought that up to somebody, and they were like, "Well, dude, San Jose State's not bad," and I laughed. And I was like, maybe they're not, because I don't follow San Jose State. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, when I think of San Jose State, I think of the Sharks. So, I looked it up. They had the 117th ranked offense in the nation last year. And their starting quarterbacks adjusted college system quarterback rating was 44.6. Auburn has a chance to run up a lot of scores, win a lot of style points. You also have, somebody that I guess not bold prediction, I think that Joshua Dobbs flops hard this year and we get another Tennessee starting quarterback.
See, I don't. I actually like that kid. I mean, I know his numbers weren't great. We had this kind of 1,000 yards, 5 games, this and that. I also think that their offensive line was a little subpar last year, and I think that they're developing. I like the kid. I think that he can play. I think it's just a maturation process. Now, this Heisman and this and that, whoa, Tennessee fans.
Tap the brakes.
I know it's been a while. Okay, I get it. I'm with you on that. Excitement, gotta have it. Respect it a lot. I know it's been a while since you guys been good. Ease up on the kid a little bit. Let him get some time to play. He's gonna be a good player.
Moving on with some other predictions. I think that. Okay, I'll come back to this. Georgia wins the first 5 games. I think Georgia wins the first 5 games, including beating Alabama.
Okay.
Alabama's young this year, and I expect them to drop a game early. I think Georgia might be the game. I think that Alabama has a 10-win season this year and comes on strong at the end and makes a tough push. But I think that they lose a couple early. I think it's probably to Ole Miss. I think it's probably to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I think, moving on from that, Georgia then goes to Knoxville. And at some point this year, that Tennessee team will gel and win some games they're not supposed to.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree.
And Mark Richt will definitely coach them out.
And he'll definitely lose a game.
So
you know what I mean?
I like that one. I like them being rattled after that game and having a lot of problems and maybe losing to Missouri, our Eastern Conference champions. And Missouri basically locking up the East that next week.
Well, I don't think, to be honest with you, it's going to be hard. Missouri will lose one game in the SEC.
Yes.
They'll lose to somebody. They'll lose to Tennessee, or they'll lose to Georgia, or somebody will beat them. Okay,
but they'll also beat the other one.
But they'll beat everybody else, and it's usually natural. They're going to be the winner of attrition in that conference eventually.
I like that. And then Georgia goes to Florida. Now, Florida at home, that's a rivalry game. I could see Georgia falling flat on their face, doing a lot of stupid stuff like we've seen them do time and time and time again, somehow losing to Florida 10-6 or something horrible like that.
I'm with you.
Then, following up, hold on, let me get through this. Then they lose to Kentucky, because I like Kentucky to win a few games they're not supposed to, and then go to Auburn and lose, and walk out of Auburn 5-5 after being ranked in the top 5, 5-0. That's one of my bold predictions for you.
I'm with. Now that's a prediction right there. I'll give you 10-1 odds that it doesn't happen on whatever you want to bet, but at the end of the day, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. It's not, it's not Greedo shot first. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. I can't call it.
I guess it's something we got to talk about here, and this will be kind of an interesting debate. When I look at the best offensive player in the SEC, and I'm sure you can already assume, I'm going to say Nick Chubb, and I know you're not as high on him as I am, obviously,
right.
But I liked him more than I liked Todd Gurley last year.
Man, Gurley's a beast. You can say that if you want.
What's his ceiling at the next level? What do you see him as?
I think he's...
Gurley, we're talking about here.
His ceiling? I think he has as much talent as anybody. The ceiling's as high as he wants it to go. I think that the way the NFL's played these days, I think he's 10 years in the league. He's,
Do you think he's Reggie Bush?
No, better than that.
You think he's
Way
better than that?
Yeah, he's a between the tackles runner.
Do you think he's Marshawn Lynch?
He's got a lot in him. Similars. I don't think he's got the long... I don't think he has... Look, Marshawn Lynch doesn't get hurt.
I know. That's really weird.
It's really weird. He's made that's like the Teflon man or something, dude.
He was dipped in the river Styx.
Something, right? Somebody better hit his heel or something. But I don't know. You love Nick Chubb. SEC Offensive Player of the Year, man. There's a lot of guys out there. There are a lot of... I'm going to go with... You like running back? I'm going to go with something else. I'm going with Laquan Treadwell from Ole Miss.
I like Laquan Treadwell. You aren't going to, I can't say that I don't like that. I think that we have, there's a couple other players. Who else are you thinking in that conference?
I like Auburn's quarterback. I like Johnson at Auburn. Just because of their... even more than that he's supremely talented and he's a physical specimen, he's a good player. Look at their offense. He's going to put up ridiculous numbers.
Well, we know that.
Right. So he's going to win a numbers game in anything just by, default, effectively, because Malzahn's going to run it up on everybody. I like Fournette at LSU. He's going to get lots of carries.
Here's my surprise for you, my dark horse. Offensive Player of the Year is Speedy Noyle at A&M.
Yeah, Speedy's good. Problem is, I don't think Speedy's going to get enough touches to do it. You know who my surprise one is? Kyle Allen at A&M.
Really? Interesting.
Because I think they'll throw it 40 times.
They're going to throw it 50. Are you kidding me? 50, 55.
And I mean, and if the kid is as accurate as everybody says he is, what are you going to do?
He actually has somebody pushing at his heels this year, too.
Yeah, but I think they're going to separate those two. I think Murray's going to end up getting the red shirt, and they're going to try to separate them. So, because Allen has 2 good years, I mean, he's not staying past his junior year. I mean, he's going to be a true sophomore. So, that's what I like. I mean, dark horse offensive player, I like Kyle Allen.
What do you think of Jeremy Johnson?
Love him. I told you, I love him. I love the guy.
I'm just saying, you don't have him up at the top of your... Like, I mean, how...
He is. He's like I'm going back and forth, flipping a coin between him and Laquan Treadwell. Like, I'm like, who? I don't know who. I just picked Treadwell because, Look, the kid's a great story. Did you watch what happened to him last year? Yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah.
That's as nasty a thing as I've seen maybe ever in a football game.
It's top 5.
It's top 5. And he's a good story. He's worked his way back. And the kid's supremely talented. And I like him, so I'm going with him. Maybe I'm homering that one up a little bit, but I like him.
So. Is it weird that I just think that Malzahn wins Coach of the Year again?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's gonna come down to him or Hugh Freeze. Whoever wins the West, and I think it comes down to those two who wins Coach of the Year.
Man, Mississippi State, that's interesting because not Mississippi State, Ole Miss. I'm sorry. What's interesting to me about Ole Miss is I think that we could see. I think we've seen their peak. This may actually be the follow-up to their peak. We may still see it. But this recruiting class is eligible for the draft after this year.
They're gone. Oh, look, Ole Miss is going to do one of these. Unless Chad Kelly is as good as what I've heard he is when he's got his head screwed on straight. Like, if he's that good, he might be able to carry them till he's gone, till a couple more years. But here's the deal.
Yeah.
Because all them dudes are going to the league. Look, next year's NFL draft is going to be Ohio State player, Ole Miss player, Ohio State player, Ole Miss player, Ohio State player, Ole Miss player, Alabama player, Ohio State, maybe a couple Baylors, and a TCU guy. And that's going to be the NFL draft next year.
Who is your Heisman candidate? Your best chance to win a Heisman in the SEC?
Jeremy Johnson.
I like it. He's got the story behind him.
He's got the story behind him. He's just going to get all the opportunities to just hang huge numbers.
I hate the way the Heisman's become, by the way.
And that's bad.
It's the Heisman moment, like I feel like I'm watching episodes of The Bachelor. Because people get voted off the island like every single week. Like seriously, it's what I looked at, and like my favorite, like last year's the best example ever because you had Kenny Hill at A&M, like we talked about, after the first week of the season. Like, he was the favorite.
He's not even on their depth chart anymore.
I know.
And he's living in TCU, living in Fort Worth.
He's living in Fort Worth. He's like living over by he's over in Fort Worth. He wasn't even playing at the end of the season.
Right.
And so it's like crazy. It's like you've got this room full of people and they just push them out one by one until they're gone, and it's all based on this moment.
Right.
And the Heisman moment to me maybe the most overrated thing in all of sports, making this award almost comical now. Because, I mean, it should be... if they're going to do it like this, where they have a moment...
Right.
Here's my resolution. Like, present the award at the ESPYs then.
Well, this is the thing about the Heisman. First of all, the Heisman has become who's the best player on the best team. And not who's the best player in college football.
Well, you had RG3, you had Manziel. They won it. It's kind of disproving that.
Well, not really, because, I mean, A&M at the time went in as a freshman quarterback, beat Alabama at their peak. I mean, look, yeah, I mean, and Griffin, they go 11-1 that year?
Like after the bowl, we won 11, yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, so 11-2, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so again, I mean, there's some, but if you're not on it, if
10
you're on it,
we went 10-3.
Yeah, if you're on a 7-5 team, you could be the first pick in the NFL draft and the most talented and have the most ridiculous numbers. You're not even getting a seat in the finalist chair.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen, and I don't like that. But look, that's the politics of all awards. That's just how it is. I mean,
did you like who won the Heisman last year?
Who did win the Heisman?
Not Jameis Winston. That's hilarious. You know what?
Mariota won it, but I mean, that's how inconsequential it was.
That's what I'm saying. Like That's kind of the funny thing is, like, when you asked that question, it's funny, we both looked at each other, and, like, for a split second there when you said it, I forgot that Mariota won.
Truthfully, I had to think about it for a second. After you said Winston, and then I was like, oh, okay, yep. So, there we go.
I'm going to hit on, before we get out of here, I'm going to hit on, like, two more things. And one of the things I want to bring up is, stepping out of the SEC, but talking about college football in general. Mike Leach today comes out, talking about my Mike Leach favorite coach of the year award. He gets a shout out in the SEC podcast, man. Like, he comes out today and says, you know what? That 4-team thing was terrible. I want 64 teams in the playoffs. I want a 10-game regular season, like 1 out-of-conference game, 2 out-of-conference games at most, play through 8 conference games, then start home and home, get through your divisions. He like constructed it in a way to where basically you would have 2 rounds. Like the first round will be like a conference championship of sorts. Moving on from that, 16 seeds all the way through. He wants 64 teams. Seth, what do you think of this?
Can I ask a question first and foremost?
Yes.
Would Washington State even qualify?
I don't know.
I mean, look, if you could revamp this schedule, how bad would it be? This is my thought process when I think about that. First of all, it's Mike Leach. I mean, and here's the deal. You could revamp this whole 64 thing, and your team's still not getting in. So what's your deal? I mean, look, I like it the way it is. Look, I'm an Ohio State guy. I'm on record with this, and this isn't any homer statement. The bottom line is, I don't want it to be more than 4 teams. I didn't want it to be, even if Ohio State wouldn't have gotten in last year, I was always a 4-team guy. Because my opinion of it is it's better than anything we've ever had before. So let's just be happy that we have it for now. Let's see how it goes for a little bit. Somebody's going to be unhappy. Baylor, TCU. I get it. I'm with you. That's your guys' own fault, though. Find another team to join your league and you won't have that problem.
Or, to be honest with you, take care of business in Morgantown.
Right. Or schedule some better teams. Whatever. It doesn't matter. My point is that everybody wants to vamp the playoffs. We just had 1 year of it. Let's see what happens this year. I mean, tell me, because you know what? And I'm a firm believer in this. And I do not co-sign to anything that Mark May says. I believe Mark May might be the Antichrist in football. Okay, that's how much I dislike that gentleman. However, he makes a valid point. It's a playoff every week. Come week 7, tell me a more exciting year watching college football that you've had
than last year. Last year was amazing.
It was amazing because every game you're watching Alabama and Ole Miss, and all of a sudden, then you're flipping back and Mississippi State's playing LSU, and you're like, "Holy crap! Was this really what's going on right now?" Like
last year, like it really was. The end of the year,
every week.
I'm with you, and like I think that at the very most, the playoff should go to is 6, giving the top 2 teams a bye.
Nah.
That's all. That's the only, and I'm not even ready for it. I'm just saying that's the most I would do, because honestly, the way I looked at it last year, just like what you said, and it's really interesting to talk about it because you're dealing with Baylor person, Ohio State person here. Talking about the SEC right here. The SEC last year was great. We had Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Auburn, and Alabama all battling to see who was going to go to the playoffs out of that. And then out in the ACC. Every week it looked like Florida State was going to lose, and it drove me insane because I had to watch them every week because I was just like, just please lose. Please, for the love of God, just lose. And you up there, like Ohio State comes out, y'all come out so flat. Y'all win, but you come out you lost at home.
You lost at home.
And you come out so flat in that game against Virginia Tech, right?
Right.
And then slowly but surely, JT Barrett learns the offense. And somehow we watch this dude grow into a Heisman contender.
Right.
And then get injured. And then Cardale Jones comes out of nowhere. And you're like, oh, by the way, national champs.
Right.
And so, you had that going on. Out on the East Coast. the West Coast. Oregon, every week, dude. They lose to Arizona. And then they go on this run. And
right, and Arizona's on a run. Look, Arizona last year, we almost saw Arizona
in the playoffs.
That was craziness. Arizona State. Then it came down to Arizona State.
And I'm going to tell
Rich
you
Rod pulled a Mark Richt.
And you're looking through it, and then you come down to the South. And to be honest with you, it wasn't the Baylor game that cost TCU the playoffs. And it wasn't the out-of-conference schedule. And it wasn't the loss at West Virginia that cost Baylor a place. I'm going to tell you what it was. It happened in back-to-back weeks. And it was when TCU went up and laid an egg at Kansas and then barely came out with the win. And then the following week, when we don't handle business against Texas Tech, we get up 25 and only win that game by 3. No, we only win that game by 2. We stop a 2-point conversion. That's how we win that game.
Right.
That is when y'all got into the playoffs. It was that back-to-back week, in my
Well,
opinion.
that and then we went out and hung 60 on Wisconsin. In the
And y'all were
championship.
motivated to do so. It's just the
Right.
timing of those events. It's like you come out and you hang 60 on that after back-to-back weeks of the Big 12's best examples playing horribly against the Big 12's worst examples.
Right. No, I'm with you. And again, we're kind of getting off of it. We got a couple things we need to finish up with this SEC
Yes,
thing.
okay.
So here we go. We've done Defensive Player of the Year. Are we done Offensive Player? Now defense. Okay, let's not get into it. Your Defensive Player of the Year.
Derek Barnett out of Tennessee.
Tennessee?
He had 21 tackles for loss last year, 7 sacks. I really like this guy. I think he could come out, probably average close to a sack.
I'm throwing a name at you. Off the board a little bit. Carl Lawson from defensive end at Auburn. Top 5 recruit nationally. Played a lot last year as a freshman. He's a beast. He's an NFL guy. And he's got Muschamp coaching him. So I'm going with him. Breakout. You're going to see easily 20 tackles for loss from him.
Who are we watching in the SEC title game?
I'm going with Missouri, and I'm going Auburn.
I like Missouri and Ole Miss this year.
I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I really, you know, I sat and just debated on that. I mean, I love Ole Miss. I think Auburn has like the craziest luck in the history of the world. We've seen it over the last couple of years, but I mean, they just pull out, do some things, something magical is going to happen. I like them a lot.
Craziest scenario you can imagine, SEC title game.
Craziest scenario I can imagine: Tennessee versus A&M.
7-win Kentucky plays a 9-win Alabama team. That's my craziest scenario.
Oh wow, dude! I don't know this. Okay, I'm with you.
Like, I think that there's a chance, and Alabama is enough of a wild card that I can see them lose games early, figure it out, put it together, and win everything late, and just mess up everybody's season.
Coach of the year.
I want to say Malzahn, like I always do. I know my anti-coach of the year will be Mark Richt.
right. The national. We now have the Mark Richt Award.
We have the Mark Richt Award. I can't even like a perpetual loser. Like
Malzahn for Coach of the Year. I like. I'll be honest with you. I think if Missouri makes it, I think Pinkel should be Coach of the Year. I don't think he'll win it. I think the SEC West carries too much power. But I'm going with the winner of the Auburn Ole Miss game, Hugh Freeze or Malzahn, whoever wins that game.
Do you think that this is a year that we see an SEC team not make the playoff?
I think there's a very good chance of that happening.
I do too, and I think that it will be one of the biggest, unintelligibly irrational anger have ever like Twitter. Every bit of social media will explode.
Oh, and you're gonna hear about it all day long because you got ESPN and SEC.
SEC, ESPN.
Yeah, SEC, ESPN. There you go. ESPN, SEC, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I mean, I there's a very good chance. I mean, I think that you and I had this talk. You use it as a statement of the SEC is cratering a little bit. I don't think they're cratering a little bit. I think that they're getting more balanced. I think that instead of where it was, you had Alabama, Auburn, and LSU being really good, and A&M kind of being that sneak team. Okay, now you got to deal with Ole Miss. You got to deal with better Arkansas teams. I think that the balance in the league is getting better to where I don't think you're getting two losses might get you into the SEC West as the SEC West champion.
You know, my thing about the SEC and the reason I think they're taking a step back, and I do dislike how much the media hypes the SEC. Like, I'm going to go on record about saying it, but it also, every week we're going to watch an SEC game this year. So I mean, like they put a great product.
Every
out.
week we're going to watch a Baylor. We're going to watch a. I mean,
Yeah,
look, Texas Tech's on prime time here in Texas. I mean, come on.
Like the thing is like, in my opinion, I think that I look at Columbus, I look at Ann Arbor, I look out in Eugene, I look at, to be honest with you, I'm starting to look at Arizona with what Rich Rod's doing out there. I'm looking out at Los Angeles right now. I'm looking in Waco. I'm looking at Fort Worth. I'm wondering what's going to happen in Austin. I'm looking in, out at Clemson right now, out in South Carolina, in Tallahassee. I'm seeing these programs get built that are monsters, man. And, in my opinion, all that parity in the SEC, if you will, as you call it, is going to get overtaken by all this other nonsense going on.
Well, look, we'll get into this when we get into the Big Ten stuff. I don't want to touch on any of this yet. Look here, the days of it's all a cycle, because for years and years and years, the Pac-10 and the Big Ten ran college football.
Yeah.
Forever and a day. Okay. Then you had what was the Southeastern Conference, with Oklahoma and Texas, and they were good. The SEC was an afterthought nationally for a long time, and I don't care what anyone tells me. Yeah, they had great teams. They had good. Where's the titles at?
Yeah, they
didn't have them. They weren't there. And here's the deal. You're going to see that shift again, because the Big Ten, and I'm not trying to be a Big Ten homer, you just brought Jim Harbaugh to the Big Ten. You have Urban Meyer, who I'm going to tell you right now is look at the recruiting. I mean,
it speaks for itself.
I mean, it does.
Hold on, Homer Bell. I mean,
like Homer Bell. I'm like, where's the Homer Bell? Like, I'm with you, but I'm just saying, like, I guess to get to my point, and that was kind of a roundabout way to do it, is to kind of emphasize what you're saying. I think that it's not a question of the SEC taking steps back. I think it's a question of other conferences stepping up.
Programs in them.
I think programs, and I think coaches. I think defections, coaches. Harbaugh coming back to college football from the NFL. You just see this. Look, James Franklin leaving the SEC and going to the Big Ten and coach Penn State. I mean, look, Penn State's going to be good. They're coming back.
It won't be a doormat forever.
No, they're not. I mean, and you look at what's going on in the Pac-10 or Pac-12, I guess now. I mean, USC. You got NFL guys all over the place. You see this. You're seeing an influx of NFL coaches coming back into college football. Mora, people like that, and they're not going to the SEC.
I have to. There's something I'm looking up right now for you that I got to bring up. We're talking about the Pac real quick. And guys, this season, Seth and I are gonna have to be very, very hard. We're gonna call each other out every year. Every week, we promise you, because both of us are so excited right now, because both of our programs, at least for the foreseeable future, are going to be battling for a playoff spot every year, which means that the chance of us getting to face each other in a national championship game is somewhat of a reality.
Yes, it absolutely is.
And the best part of it is I can guarantee you that after that game, this podcast won't exist anymore.
Right, correct. Actually, there's going to be a month hiatus, because one's not going to talk to the other one, and when we are going to talk is when we have to come back on the podcast.
Basketball.
And basketball, and the other one has to pay up whatever the bet was on that game, because we will have a Mike and Mike-esque bet going on, and it will be good.
There's the thing I'm pulling up is the thing I love about the Pac, and let me see it here. I'm pulling it up right now. Here's what I love. Now we have a game. Okay, that first Thursday night. I'm just gonna do a broad stroke on the first Thursday of college football here. Next week we're coming back to talk about the ACC. Correct?
Yep, correct.
All
ACC.
right, so we got that first night. All right. Now you get late in the evening. Now this is what I love about college football. This is what I love about Thursday nights. So many people, I remember, when college night, Thursday night, we'd go out, have a good time, everything else. As we get older and when we're gravitated towards our homes and our couches become much better friends of ours, Thursday night becomes one of my favorite nights of the week, and it's because there aren't so many games on. It's there's a game. And the first Thursday, there's obviously a ton of games, but there's usually just one focal point for each time slot, which means that I don't have to make choices. I can just sit back and watch football.
Right.
Now, what I love about this is that first night, we have TCU and Minnesota, and that game's starting at 10 o'clock at night. We're up till 1 watching that game.
Right.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And it's in Minnesota. Now, like you said, what I love about that game and what I wish more is I wish that game was in November on a Thursday.
Right. I wish it was November, 10 o'clock at night on a Thursday in an open-air stadium in Minnesota. I went to college in Minnesota. We all know this. I'm going to tell you right now, those Texas boys would be up there it'd be over with. That's a Minnesota win. I'm taking Minnesota and the points, and all the money is riding on Minnesota in that game.
The very first game of college football, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but the last several years in a row has been North Carolina and South Carolina.
Oh.
Both of those schools call themselves Carolina.
Right.
I think that we should just go ahead and have the winner of that game every year. The state gets to refer to itself as just Carolina.
There you go.
Should be.
It's the bragging rights, Carolina out here.
The other one just takes on the other.
Well, here we're getting a little bit off. We're going crazy here, but what else? You had something else you wanted to say, Abby?
Nah, I'm on.
What's up? Hey, SEC.
SEC it is.
I'm going right here. Here's my rundown. Carl Lawson, Laquan Treadwell. I'm going Malzahn because I picked him to win, so I'm going to have to stay with him.
Yeah.
I'm going Missouri, Auburn, and I'm going Bowling Green beats Tennessee.
That's your big one right
Obviously, that's my big one right there, and no SEC team will make the playoffs.
I'm definitely in agreement with that, and I think that it'll be worse than what you think. I think that you'll see whoever wins the SEC championship game will have at least 3 losses. That's
not out of the realm of possibility.
And what's crazy is in saying that, and I guess I'll close. This is my last prediction of the night. In saying that, I also think 13 of those 14 teams make bowl games. Because the way the schedule's played out and them all getting 4 out of conference games, I think it's possible.
You want to know why it's not going to happen? The only reason I'm telling you not because if it does, the only way it does happen is if my other prediction doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Mississippi State not winning a game in their league. So at the end of the day, if they go 0-for in the SEC West, they're not making a bowl game.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. So maybe 12 then.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm with you. I like it. I think you got a good point there. But if I back you on that play, then my other play is done. So I can't do it.
I love it. I'm excited about it. Like I said, next week we got the ACC. I'm going to go ahead and, we can be somewhat biased at times in this. And, like, the ACC is definitely my least favorite conference for football. Like,
look,
if I end up, like, talking
there's
about
bad football in the
Duke
ACC.
and Carolina basketball games next week, like, please
Right.
forgive me,
It
guys.
could look. I mean, there's a good chance we could just skip right to the ACC basketball preview next week. It could be 10 minutes of that because, I mean, look.
I think we should do an ACC memoirs, which is, like, the ACC, like, frowny face. Why couldn't Troy Bell have been in our conference yet?
Oh, man.
All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for us. Both of these last ones have gone closer to an hour. I guess that's going to kind of become our standard running time.
Right, correct. I mean, it's just too much, especially now. College football, too much to fit
Too
in.
much to discuss. I'm excited about it. We are holding off on the Big Ten, and we're going to do the Big 12 and then the Big Ten in that order to finish this off. We're doing the Big Ten last because national champions get to go last.
Thanks, sir.
But I really would probably clear your schedule completely when we get to those 2 weeks.
Because it could get ugly.
It could get really long.
Absolutely.
But guys, I guess that's all for us here. Seth, you got anything else to add tonight?
Nothing. Everybody be safe out there. Thanks for listening.
Thank you guys.